Welcome to You Know Me, a podcast from Brunswick in the Golden Isles. I'm Buda.
I'm The Beard.
And we are here today. Yeah, it's a Tuesday.
Yes, it is.
Crazy couple of weeks.
Yes, it has.
You know, the Hurricane Helene, and now we're watching Milton come in.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's
How
like
stressful.
it's very stressful. I mean, we had the power outages, damage, and then we have this Milton showing up. It's sometimes you just need to relax and have a stress relief.
Exactly. I think we're at a great place for that. We are with Dr. Kayleen Braund and Dr. Adam Braund. And this is AlphaCare Health, Chiropractic, and Functional Medicine. And so introduce us to our listeners and tell us something about yourselves.
Sure. I'm Dr. Braund, and I'm a native of Michigan. However, I had a practice in St. Mary's, Georgia, which isn't too far from here, for about 5 years. And then I moved back to Atlanta. I met my husband, and I told him we're going back down to the beach. So I've been, doing mobile chiropractic, and I just moved into our new space here at Edwards Plaza by the post office here in St. Simons.
Yep. And that's by Chubb's Diner, just for anyone that's not familiar with the actual plaza name.
And I'm Adam. I'm the husband. I'm the psychotherapist. Emphasis on the psycho. But yeah, so I've been counseling for close to 20 years. And once we had our two kids, we decided to move down here, and we've loved living here. I started practicing years ago, but kind of took a break and did a business. I started a hemp processing business in Tennessee, and then sold that business, and then we decided to come down here. So I've started a practice and work with a lot of guys, and I've also been working on a book project for the last couple of years, which has finally come to an end. And we're working on cover art and stuff for the book, and really excited about all that, and just helping her. It's like tag team. She's doing her business, I'm doing mine, and then we're working together. She's sending me referrals, I'm sending her referrals, and we
With
just
two kids under 4.
Yeah, that's
Fun times.
yeah, that's stressful. On its
And hurricanes.
Oh, yeah.
Get that into the mix.
rented for a while here on the island, and then finally got a house. And yeah, so it's been disorienting, I guess, to say the least, but with two kids 17 months apart. So
But amazing what has really come of all of it, because
yeah,
we really moved down here not knowing for one, we weren't even sure if we were going to move here. It was between here and a couple other cities, and that's a story in itself. Our Airbnb that we were going to stay at got canceled, and I said, we're going to St. Simons, where we got engaged and married.
Nice.
I feel more comfortable.
And now here you are.
Yeah.
so it was either here or Bluffton.
Yeah. So how long?
Oh, yeah.
How we decided.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing the mobile chiropractic here?
For about a year.
For a year.
Mhm.
Okay. And now the mobile part,
Yeah.
how did that work? So you had to go to did people book with you, and then you had to go to people's houses?
Yeah, so I went to people's houses and businesses, and I came, from Atlanta and out of COVID, where I started doing a little bit of it up there, and clearly I wouldn't be able to do what I did down here up in Atlanta because of the traffic, but I knew on the island I could get everywhere so quick, and I could see more people, and I knew it was a possibility. So it just kind of took off, and people were like, yeah, I want you to come to my house, or my business. That's great. I don't have to leave. I don't have to wait in traffic. I don't have to wait in a waiting room. And that's great. But they're just as happy that I'm going brick or mortar now too. So I'm sure I'll have those few that will still want me to come to them, but yeah.
So you have to table everything at either the home or the business.
Yes. And I also, the other half of my practice is telehealth. So I do a lot of, I can order blood labs, I do a lot of hormone testing, and I talk to people really all over the United States with that. So I'm really just as much brick or mortar and mobile as I am telehealth.
So the health part is really a big part of what you do then.
It is.
Wow.
It is. And I just help people with natural health, and I give them the options of helping them heal their body with natural health.
Wow. So that's the nutrition part.
It is, yes.
That's awesome. Now, do you still do the psychotherapy? I want to make sure I'm doing that right. So what does that involve? So is it more like a psychologist, or is it something different?
So psychologists typically do testing, and then there's talk therapy.
Right.
So somebody comes to my office and, they open up basically, and I'm there to help them process through what they want to work through. And they kind of set the goals.
Okay.
And I'm there to work with them, and I use all my experience. My dad was a psychotherapist. I grew up in the business. So counseling is the business that I've known for my whole life.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'll chime in on your dad's part, because we live on a golfer's island, and his dad helped, you can elaborate, but orchestrate the Ryder Cup. He partnered the players, and they ended up winning in 2008.
So he worked with Paul Azinger individually for years, and then Paul asked him to help put together the Ryder Cup team in 2008. And then they won, and then they wrote a book about it called Cracking the Code. And I got to kind of go along for the ride through that whole experience.
Yeah.
I've worked with a lot of professional athletes and people that are in the limelight, people that deal with a lot of the issues that come along with being successful.
Right.
It takes time away from the family. So I grew up watching my dad kind of do that, and then I end up in the same position working with a lot of different people challenged by success, which success comes with its own
Right.
challenge.
Yeah. I mean, I can't go anywhere without someone stopping me for an autograph. It's just
It's tough because it takes time away from your family.
Yeah.
We're kind of conditioned to think more about what we accomplish than just who we become.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we're starting to realize that who you become is probably more important than what you accomplish in life. So yeah, so I get to kind of help guys like that are high performing and create a safe place for them.
That's awesome. Actually, when I was younger, well, I shouldn't say younger. When I was a teenager, I worked at Staples, and I met this guy, and he actually did psychotropic therapy, where he used music and sound waves to help people open up and cope with trauma. So I always found that the psychotherapy,
the frequencies of music impact your ability to regulate your nervous system.
Yeah.
So it's huge.
Yeah.
Music is probably one of the most important things to help people connect with what they're feeling.
Right.
Yeah. Why do people like music so much? So much.
Right. Or certain genres of music, or
You can tell sometimes people's moods by what they're listening to.
Yeah, for sure.
If you've got maybe they're feeling a little frustrated or angry, and some kind of sad melody going on, maybe they're a little heartbroken. I can see that, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's really where we want to tie this in, is the mind-body connection and really regulating out your nervous system. So I'm the doctor of the nervous system, and he's the doctor of the mind. So that's really the direction that we're wanting to take.
It's crazy because basically we are these walking neuroceptive radars.
Right.
Scanning for trouble. And then so how we feel is determined in large part whether we feel threatened or not.
Right.
That's what's dysregulating most people. So, if you're here in traffic all the time, we were from Atlanta. Obviously, being dysregulated was our set point. And so we realized it was kind of hard for us if we're going to be helping.
You need to help yourself before you can help.
Now, so why not
do it? Yeah.
Come to this.
Yeah. And that was actually what I was going to ask, is how you guys were able to tie both of that together. Because I know, the chiropractic part, relieving the stress off the spine, and then the mental part of it also.
Yeah. Do you want to elaborate on that?
You first.
So the nervous system is our regulation. So I specialize in the nervous system, and I specialize in chiropractic with what's called Upper Cervical Chiropractic care. So I'm testing the spine and temperatures on both sides of the spine, and they need to be within a certain degree. Otherwise, that's indicative of me needing to give an adjustment. So I'm different than most chiropractors in the fashion that I'm not going to see you 2 and 3 times a week. It's really about unlocking that upper part of the spine and allowing that to heal and stay cleared. It's not about me adjusting that area 3 or 4 times a week. I like to make the unlock, and then I like to monitor it and then really push those visits out and watch the body heal and allow the body to heal. So I'm specialized in that type of chiropractic, which is going to regulate that nervous system. And then, of course, on top of that, we're going to look at the nutrition component because it's equally as important as well.
Wow.
No, I agree with that. I'm terrible with nutrition, but what got you started? Did you always want to be in chiropractic care, or is this something?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. So when I was 5 years old, my mom took me to a chiropractor for allergies and asthma. And this chiropractor happened to do what's called nutrition response testing. So they would test me and my nutrition, and they formulated what types of herbs or whole foods that I needed to heal to combat those conditions. So I grew up in a holistic family. So
Nice.
I wasn't like eating the foods that most people would eat. And if I did, I would get sick. So playing in the herb garden was more of what I would do versus like playing in a swing set. Where this is taking me is the nutrition, and that nutrition response testing came back into my life, and it kept coming back into my life several times. My mom was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer when I was 14. Sorry.
It's okay.
I always get a little worked up when I talk about it. But it's what drove me to do this work and to really want to help people heal their body naturally. This doctor did this nutrition response testing on her, and he helped her immensely. She's not with us now, but she lived 2.5 years after her diagnosis and used natural ways. So that was a huge impact for me. But I ended up going to college, and I ended up doing dietetics, and I got my degree in nutrition. And then my last year of college, I was working for a chiropractor, and she goes, what are you going to do when you graduate? And I said, I don't even know. I was like, oh my gosh, I graduate in 2 weeks. I don't even know. She said, I think you're going to go to chiropractic school. And I was like, what? I'm not going to chiropractic school. And I looked into it, and I was like 2 classes away from getting in. And it was organic chemistry, which is like the hardest class to get through. And I ended up failing it. And then I had one more chance to get in, and I passed it. And so I went to chiropractic school. And, my second quarter of chiropractic school, it's 14 quarters long, and it's intense. It's kind of like going to med school. A lot of people think, oh, chiropractic school is like 6 weeks. It's not. You get a doctorate degree. And my second quarter of chiropractic school, I knew I wanted to do upper cervical work. I was adjusted that way, and I was like, whatever that is, I'm going to do that. And I ended up going on mission trips, and it's like a martial art. Like it's the speed, it's the form, I always do the weird things. I pole vaulted in college. Like I'm always choosing the weirdest things. But I chose that. And then I'm getting to your answer here. And then when I had our kids, I had the worst postpartum, and I had the worst pregnancies. I had hyperemesis, and I don't know if you know what that is, but I was throwing up like 10 times a day, literally for 2 years. I worked really hard to have those kids. And I was like, you know what? I need to go back to this nutrition response testing, and I need to get checked myself. And I literally healed through that with my postpartum and the throwing up. I can help people. If you're throwing up, come see me, because I can help you. I've lived through it. But that's, in a sense, I think nutrition has always been my passion since I was 5 years old. It's interesting how it kept coming back into my life and doing that specific nutrition.
It's amazing what food can do, actually. I have a friend of mine whose son, when he was born, epileptic, and he was having up to 30 episodes a day. They met with a doctor in New York and did not prescribe one medication, gave him a list of food, and they stuck with it, and his kid's going to college, and he doesn't have the episodes.
Yeah.
Or if he does, they're very, very few. And it's just a matter of changing your diet, which begs the question is, what the heck are we really eating?
Yes, absolutely. And feeding your kids.
And feeding the kids. We talk about, you hear all these, I don't want to say conspiracy theories, but you talk about
Red number die.
how young ladies are maturing at an earlier age. You know, this whole ADHD, everyone's getting diagnosed, or everyone's now on the spectrum. Is it because of what we're eating? And you read articles where, you know, food companies in the United States are using preservatives and chemicals in things that are banned in other countries. And so it's like, you have to ask what's really good for you and what's not.
It is, and it makes you question even just going to the grocery store. This is what I always tell some of my patients. I say, you know, you can't even almost walk around the perimeter anymore. You've probably heard, only walk around the perimeter, stay away from the middle aisles, all the processed foods. But then I ask the question, well, when you're in the fruits and vegetables section, what are you really buying? Are you buying the carrots that are surrounded in plastic? Are you trying to buy the different vegetables that actually heal you? It's like, have you ever bought radishes, and have you ever made radishes instead of eating the potato, because they taste better than a potato, but you're eating radishes that actually heal you? So it's like things like that we're so used to buying the carrots and the cucumbers and maybe some broccoli.
Right.
I love my broccoli, and thanks to my wife, I've enjoy asparagus roasted.
Yeah.
But I was always, you know, the meat and potato growing up, and I was growing up mostly as an athlete, so I was burning most of it awful. Obviously, I'm no longer an athlete. I still try to eat like one, as it kills you. But I've always been fascinated with how food works with your body, and how it sometimes looks stuff up if something's kind of ailing me. I've been to a chiropractor before. I had GERD really bad, and visiting this chiropractor in Bluffton a number of times, like twice a week, because it's all in that bind, and I don't have it anymore with the asthma and things like that. And there's a lot of things that relieved it, but there's the holistic side of it that I never really got into, that I've been trying to on my own, but it's not easy. I think it's great to have someone to be a guide to guide you. You have that knowledge, so it'd be beneficial if anyone's looking for that kind of knowledge to come here.
Yeah. And we have to supplement anymore because of our food and the quality of our food. I base a lot of I really work hard to curate the right herbs and the right nutrition. And I use a company out of Wisconsin, and the way that they put their farm was like post-glacier, and it has the best soil instead of, the soil where you're getting the fruits and vegetables now that is 2 inches thick. This soil that they grow the vegetables in is like 7 inches thick. And then they pull in different bugs to prevent the spoilage. And just the way that they farm is just amazing. And we just don't get that farming, and the soil is just not nutrient rich anymore, and our health is suffering for it.
Right.
Yeah. And the sad part about it is that fruits and vegetables are so expensive at the grocery store that it almost forces you to let me go get this preserved canned food of carrots instead of actually buying fresh carrots or radishes, because you look at the price and you're like, a bag of salad's so expensive. Let me just go get this frozen meal in the frozen aisle instead.
In your second brain, we know now, is the gut.
Right.
So we know that, what you eat obviously impacts your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we've linked up. My story, I started taking Ritalin, I think it was called, or I think it was the first one when I was in first grade. It was just diagnosed.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of rampant, as you brought up ADHD, but as I kind of have gone through the process myself, and learned kind of what's really going on, and being in the field, referring people to psychiatrists, prescribing medication, the medicine, putting kids on amphetamines is just not a good idea. It's not good for anybody, but and it's justified because of this diagnosis, which is we're starting to figure out, as we understand that we're basically these nervous systems, that a lot of ADHD are kids who are in what's called functional freeze, which is basically when you're checked out. And a lot of kids check out because, parents are busy, people are busy, and we don't get the time to spend with each other as a family. So if you take a highly sensitive person and you put them in a really constrained environment where they're supposed to sit down all day and listen to a teacher, it doesn't bode well for certain people. And so there's this idea of neurodiversity now. right? So in an ecosystem, it thrives on diversity. So you have to have different types of brains and different, you know, and that's the key, is knowing kind of who you are uniquely, and then finding the right atmosphere for you to thrive in, finding the right diet for you that's unique to you, and then, you know, finding relationships that are responsive to you, you know, that are, you know, neglect is a big thing. I think, so figuring that out and going, how do you grow into who you're meant to be? And then what's the diet that somebody should have? It's then you start really seeing that life is not as much about what you accomplish and who you become. So it's like who you become is dependent upon how healthy you are, right? We've got so focused on what we were accomplishing, what our grades were. All our successes were extrinsic to us. And it's kind of flipping, going, what does it mean for me to be intrinsically successful versus just extrinsically, right? Successful. And that's where, you know, the mind-body connection, it's like, oh yeah, the mind and the body it's not all separate. So a lot of information is out there now, and people are starting to figure out the truth, and that medical profession is a business, insurance is a business. We live in an economic engine.
It's true.
There's a lot of good aspects to it, but there's some things we're trying to tweak as a society and see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. I mean, don't even get me started about insurance. I get on my soapbox.
So do I.
Some of these, I think Al Capone ran a more legit business than some of these insurance companies do.
Yeah.
I mean, you said something that there's a lot of information out there. How can someone discern through all this information? Because I know I can go out there and Google. I might have something like my asthma. How do I kind of remedy that holistically? And I put that in Google, and you're getting pages, and how do I discern what is something that's would work for me? It's not going to work for
something tangible.
Well, I think that's the benefit of working with a professional who's spending most of their time curating the information. Like, I think, well, leaders have to be curators basically now. We have enough information. We just have to decipher what's true and what's not. I mean, think about what AI has done. It's going to change school. I mean, it's not just about the banking method, which is remember and regurgitate, right? Like getting kids to memorize dates and information. It's pointless. It's more about developing healthy people, not just competitive people in an economic engine. And so taking a holistic model, to be whole means to heal. So to heal means to be whole. And so the question is, what's missing? And what's missing is, you know, our ability to just grow into who we are in real time. Like, over time, you figure things out. It's not just this microwave, like you just become an adult and, you know, you take these classes, right? So it's learning how to decipher truth, which means how do you tune into your nervous system, and how do you listen to your neuroceptive radar that's telling you, hey, you know what, this isn't true, or this isn't right. That's the whole idea of like listening to your gut. It's not just a gut instinct. Like it's a real thing. So slowing down and respectfully like thinking about what you're really thinking and processing, and then being able to talk about it with somebody that you can trust.
I mean, this is exactly what we did when we moved here. We slowed down, we regulated our nervous system. We deciphered what was true for us and what wasn't for our family. And I mean, it's only been 2 years, and
yeah, I think we're
in a much better place than
we could teach this stuff, but we weren't healthy ourselves.
Right. We knew we had to get healthy ourselves. We had just come out of pandemic. We just had 2 kids under 4.
Gonna make that big move. Yeah.
Our Airbnb got canceled.
So, yeah, I think that's how do you decipher what's true? Is you have to slow down and learn to listen to what your body's telling you.
Yeah.
You always say slow is
smooth, and smooth is fast.
Oh.
You know, it's we take these detours thinking we're going. You know, it's like, oh, I'm gonna take the the trick way home, right? You end up 30 minutes. 30 minutes longer than what you even thought. When you could have just like relaxed and taken your time, gotten there just as fast.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing. I think we overcomplicate what we don't understand. So there's a lot of like, it's not just natural food, it's natural thinking. A lot of the thinking and the paradigms we have taken on or operated within aren't natural paradigms. School the industrial model of school is not a natural paradigm. It was something we created for productivity purposes and economic reasons. And so now that we've kind of grown into this time of AI, the question I think is what separates us from machines. And that's our ability to be present, our ability to feel. And really, at the end of the day, to feel means to connect.
Right.
The language of a relationship is emotion. So it's knowing how you feel is the beginning of strength is sensitivity. So being sensitive and being vulnerable is where you find strength. Being numb, being tough is really false. You're not tough. You're in a state of sympathetic, fight, flight, or freeze, or what's called fawn, which is being the nice guy.
Right.
So there's a lot that you start realizing, whoa, I've really adapted to in these unnatural ways. And then I'm wondering why my relationships aren't working. I'm wondering why I'm struggling so much. And it's because our value has been reduced to what we accomplish than really who we become. And I think that's what we're going to see a real shift in. And moving here was the first step for us to do that for ourselves so that we can then be able to do that honestly with people we work with. And so from that psychological and physical, and then just us talking.
I mean, I grew up in that performance. I was a gymnast for many years, then I went into pole vaulting, and then I had to get my doctorate degree. It was like perform. And then I met Adam, and it healed me because I would have still been stuck in that performance.
I was on that track too. I was performing, trying to just compete and build my career, right? Build my image. It was more about image crafting than it was like being a healthy person.
Yeah.
And I don't think you figure it out until it falls apart.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you mentioned that image part, especially now with social media. Everybody wants to be that TikTok star, that Instagram star, right? And sometimes it's like, wait a minute, like you're trying to be somebody, but you're not taking a step back to, like you mentioned, like heal yourself. Like you just want that instant gratification, and you want to put yourself out there and not actually taking the time to say, wait a minute, I have to step back.
Well, it's interesting too, because I think some of that desire to be seen on social media comes from not being seen in your intimate relationships. And so there's a lot of neglect that we just neglect relationships because they get in the way of productivity, and so there's this longing to kind of be seen on TV, or now not TV, but
yeah, YouTube, TikTok, yeah.
Celebrities out now.
Being a celebrity, right? And we've gone through this phase of being a celebrity, but now it's like people are tired of just advertising themselves. So now you're seeing with TikTok, you're seeing this trend towards more authenticity. It's like, well, if people are trying to be real, then the question is, well, what were you before?
Yeah.
Right? We were fake. And so I think it's we've just been swimming in fakeness for who knows how long.
I'm on TikTok, and my first videos, I was like, what am I doing? And I feel like they've improved. I'm still learning, but I'm more natural now than the first, hi, I'm Dr. Braund. That is so
yeah, I mean, you almost have to
I'm like, I have to delete that.
It's a process.
Yeah, it is a process.
But I think people are searching, which is good.
Yeah.
It's just life was in these seasons. And in this book that I've been working on, and we talk about how there's 4 seasons of life. There's season 1 I call the basics, which is basically where you get your love and your rules, your logic. Seasons 2 is I call the game, which is basically, right, you're competing. There's trade-offs. People get stuck their whole life in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're kind of reduced to what you do, and yet there's this other season that comes afterwards called the truth, which is like fall, right? It's the truth happens, and it's hard, and your job falls apart, you lose a relationship, it tests you as a person, you lose who you thought you were going to be in the game, but it's that struggle that actually frees you. It's the gift that you didn't know was a gift, because it frees you to then live in the 4th part, which is called the journey. And that's where we're kind of in right now, is this journey where we're just what's natural, where curiosity is natural. So we're learning about my clients are teaching me, we're learning constantly. And so, I mean, just sitting here with you guys, I mean, it's taking that mentality of learning is.
Yeah, well, definitely. I find, I work in corporate world, a lot of people find their identity through what they do. Is like they're defined by the role they do at work. And I was like that for a long time. I had to have something happen to realize that, finance does not define who I am. Working for a particular company does not define who I am. But for the longest time, that's what you think, because you're seeing your classmates, your friends on Facebook, and the trips they're taking. But you always see them on their good days. You don't see them too much on their bad days. It's always their trip or their family gathering or a birthday, and everyone's happy. So that becomes your measuring stick, and you're comparing yourself to all this stuff that's most likely not even really too true, and it can make you have gray hair in doing it. I finally had figured that out, but I was caught up in that. I was caught up on this identity of like, this is who I am. This is what defines me. And it was not a good place.
It's stressful.
It's very stressful.
And so that stress is like, well, what causes stress? Like, right? What causes stress is when you're having to do something isn't natural. So the image isn't natural that we've created. Food's not natural. So nothing's natural, and then we're stressed. And so figuring out that it stresses our nervous system, and then it does what's called this like HPA response, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal response, trips off all these, hormones and different things, and you got autoimmune issues, and just the connection between the mind and body. Like there's this book called When the Body Says No. It's like, this idea of like, well, do you even know when your body is saying no?
Right. It's like having the check engine light, but ignoring it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's I think what so restoring that sense of presence.
And it's silent. It's not visible usually.
Right.
Yeah, because we are also taught to kind of repress pain versus listening to it.
Right.
So the idea with what we do is to try to like listen to people, hear their stories, and then when you learn your story, you start to pull up all the stuff you repressed.
Yep.
And your body starts to relieve the pressure, and suddenly you're not in the game anymore. You're not trying to compete anymore. You're just trying to journey, not just to travel places like you see people travel in all these countries, but to actually travel inside you, right? Inside yourself, because you can travel all over the place and go nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
So getting quiet and finding a time, finding relationships that are safe for you to explore what's really true in your life, and being around people that you don't have to perform for.
What a great island to do it on.
Right. Exactly.
That's why St. Simon's is...
Yeah, it's like keep it a secret. So let me ask. So what would a client or someone new expect on their first visit?
So if you're looking at the chiropractic visit, I'm going to do a full intake and history, and then I do a thorough exam. Like I said, I really emphasize on the temperature checks on both sides of the spine. I do some leg checks, analysis, and then the adjustment itself is different than most. I don't twist the neck. I use a special table that is at a certain angle to unlock those upper parts of the neck that are usually locked. And of course, it's by my adjustment. So on the other side of things, I do the functional medicine. So if there's any blood labs that you already have, you can upload those to the portal so I can look at them ahead of time. If you need any labs ordered, then I can do that. And then from there, we would do the nutrition response testing, where I'm going to test a muscle for weak or a strong muscle. And I pull different herbs and I test different parts of the organs to see exactly what's weak and where you're deficient in those categories. So.
That neck twisting always scared me.
Yeah, I really like this adjustment, and a lot of my patients like it as well. A lot of people don't like their neck adjusted, or they don't like it twisted, and I will tell you too, a lot of people are like, you'll never be able to adjust me. I'm a big guy or I'm a big woman, and how do I do with you? You're a big guy. I get it done. So, yeah, it just works.
So it was interesting. You said you check the legs. You check for like alignment, or...
So it's an actual pull from the spinal cord. So it's not that a lot of times people are like, oh, I've been told I have a short leg. It's not anatomical short. Usually, rarely it is. it's a pull from the spinal cord. So it's kind of like if you take a keychain and you twist the top of the key, if a chain,
Right.
then the rest is going to twist below. So if you're locked at the top, and usually most people are, because the top bone doesn't have what's called interlocking joints, and it doesn't for survival. We have to be able to turn our head right and left if a tiger's chasing after us to run away from it. If we can't move it that far, then we have problems. So it's the path of least resistance is that area, and that's usually the area of most trauma. It's the first trauma from when we're pulled from birth. We're pulled from our neck in most cases. We fall off a bike. It's a silent thing that happens that locks that upper part of the neck. So a lot of people are like, oh, I didn't have any neck trauma. You probably did. You didn't even realize it.
Wow.
And you just are living locked, and you're not living at your full potential or the potential to truly heal your body.
Wow. Just from that one part of the spine.
Amazing, because your your brainstem sits right through there.
Yeah.
And it's your control center. It's your computer center. It tells everything else what to do.
Yeah. And then, of course, all the nerves run down the spine.
Yes.
So, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I see really bizarre cases that haven't responded to medical, cases that haven't responded to general chiropractic usually. I see a lot of autoimmune. I see a lot of seizure. I see a lot of even low back, and I don't even touch the low back. I address it. Of course, I'm going to look at the low back, but a lot of them are helped by what I do with the neck. And I don't even, not always where the pain is the problem. So we have to kind of always remember that, because we always want to go to where the pain is, but it's not always where the problem is.
Wow, that's interesting. Thank you.
So you were saying it's upper cervical, so it's like just the neck to a certain part of the spine? Or?
Yeah, so the upper cervical is your skull itself, and then the atlas and the axis bone. And that those three components are so important for your nervous system and regulation. There's so much that happens at that level. And like I said, it's the only level that's really going to lock three-dimensionally and create a lock where it's not moving the right way. I mean, if you just look in the mirror tonight and you turn your head to the right and left, I'm going to do this on your first visit, most likely you're not moving as far to the right or the left as one side or the other. And also, too, you could look in the mirror, one shoulder's higher than the other. I mean, look at our posture. Like, we're on our phones. We are sitting in a car. From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, you're in this hunched over position, really. Brushing our teeth, eating, phones. I mean, I can go on and on with it. So it's an important area of the body that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I spend 8 hours a day like this on my desk.
Yeah.
Working on spreadsheets and answering emails.
Yeah.
I can feel it between the shoulder blades. It gets tight. And when I get home, I have to like kind of squeeze everything.
Yeah. I'm big into kettlebell work as well, and I love the kettlebell. I was big into CrossFit, and I was an athlete most of my life, and then I had the kids, and the kettlebell work has been the most beneficial, and I think is the most efficient for as you age. It helps with mobility, it helps with strength, it helps with cardiovascular. I love the kettlebell, and you're done within like 5 minutes. Keep it by your desk. Pick it up every a few times a day, and you will reap the benefits from it.
Let me talk about the nutrition part now. So we have the chiropractor part, unlocking the spine. So the nutrition part, how do you watch the progress with the nutrition part to make sure that your client is getting what you recommended and that it is working?
Yeah, that's great. So the blood labs are more chronic. We're looking at things that are going on, that's been going on probably for a while. And then the nutrition response testing, that's like acute, what's happening right now. So we're testing for underlying bacterial, viral, parasite, fungus, mold, different food allergies. So when I test for a strong or weak muscle, you take some of these supplements and you come back and those areas are going to start to improve, not just symptom-wise, but I'm testing the organ and I'm testing the muscle to see if that is in fact strong again. And usually patients will symptomatically respond saying they feel better, but not always is it going to be what they say, but I'm also able to test. So I'm not always going by their symptoms.
And this would be all blood work or?
Nutrition response testing is actually testing a muscle for whether it's weak or strong. So I touch different parts of your body, the different points for organs, strength and weakness. That's one component, but I also look at the blood work as well. So I use both. I use the muscle testing to kind of back up the blood work, because the blood work, it's not always 100%. It could be more chronic. It could be, the muscle testing is going to be more like what's happening right now in this moment.
So just, can you give an example of muscle testing? Like, would you just like touch like the, what, I don't know all the muscles.
So you're just going to, so the one test that I usually use is you're going to have a positive or negative charge in between your eyes here. So I'm going to touch in between your eyes, and then I'm going to have you hold out your arm, and I'm testing the tricep part of your arm. And when I do a positive or a negative charge, if I do a negative, it's always going to go weak. And you can hold your arm up as strong as you can. I could do it right now on you guys, and I can always push your arm down on that negative charge.
That's great.
It's just, we're electric. So if you take a balloon, I know I do all the weird stuff, right? Everyone's like, that's weird. I'm like, it's weird, but it's true. If you take a balloon and you rub it on your head, the static, we are electric beings, and we have to start really like understanding that. Like grounding, we live at the beach. Like people that are so dysregulated, like all my patients, I'm like, go to the beach. You live here. Why don't you walk on the beach? Like the electrons from the earth into your feet, it's healing. And they do, and they come back and they're like, you're right, I feel better. I'm like, because you regulated your nervous system.
Yeah. And probably even the salt water.
Oh, right? My goodness, yes. It's so healing. Yeah. So don't tell everyone we live here.
Yeah, we'll just try to broadcast this in a small area pocket.
We'll just launch this out as a whisper.
Yeah, when I was, when we got married, and I mean, she's kind of, being around her, I've learned so much about all this and how the body works, and just how it's so different than what I was, what I understood about physiology. Kayla and I met, and as we've been together, I've learned so much about just human physiology, and just from being with her and how it relates to mental health and regulating your nervous system. When she adjusted me the first time, I think for me, what I noticed was I felt more present. I felt like I was more, I could see clearer. Like everything just felt, I was just more like connected. Like it's easy to get dissociated when you're stressed. You just sort of freeze and you're kind of detached, or you lose attention. And that's been my issue, obviously, being struggling with this ADHD stuff. And so, just a regular adjustment has been huge for my nervous system. And so I think it's just key to be able to see how you really take care of yourself as a person, and rather than just kind of being dependent on certain medicines that are, laboratory grown, which, is good for that business, but not necessarily good for you as a person. And so it's exciting that people are waking up and seeing that they're this nervous system, and how you regulate yourself, and how do you take care of yourself, and like how do you understand who you are and know your story. I mean, a big part of regulating yourself is genuinely just knowing your story. Like we are built for story. It's just kind of in us, right? So knowing that story and kind of understanding where your family came from and issues that they went through. You carry your family with you. We're not just like individuals, we're a system. So there's like a system element to life. It happens in seasons, but there's also this system going on. And we're all connected, and particularly with our families. So knowing your story, and then knowing your own health patterns, and it's all this like, so I think that's kind of where I think we're moving towards, people being much more concerned about who they are than what they accomplish. Now, what you accomplish is great. It's cool to do great things. But how much better is it to do it when you're healthy, and to not necessarily have to sacrifice yourself for what you do, but to realize like what you do can come out of who you really are. And that's kind of a better fit for us anyways. And people are happier when they're doing things that they enjoy, because what moves you is different than what moves me.
And I think that's why podcasts are taking off, because people are able to actually be real and tell their stories and not have to put on the persona of what they're not.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why we decided to.
Great.
We wanted to.
Love it.
We wanted to showcase the community, and we felt that it was important for everyone that lives in the Golden Isles to know what is in the Golden Isles and what is offered for them in the Golden Isles.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think this is definitely. I'd say this is a place for healing.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, it is.
whole area. Anybody that lives here knows that.
Yeah,
It's a place where people connect and talk.
yeah,
Yeah, I think if you even ask people, what's the number one reason why you moved here, is they say that I needed to heal.
yeah. It is. You're absolutely correct. And I think, and you'll notice this. During COVID, a lot of people actually came down here because of, as you mentioned, the beach, that open salt marsh air, and it just felt so relieving.
Open, and you're not confined in your small apartment in New York or Chicago.
Yeah, well,
That a lot when I was driving Uber, where these people are all from New York or Chicago or Boston, that they come down here and they're buying places because, like, well, if I'm going to work from home, I'll rather work down here than be stuck in a stuffy loft apartment or studio apartment. And they seem a lot more happy about doing what they're doing. So this place does have
healing factors.
some qualities here that make it attractive. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd enjoy living down south, but since we moved here, I felt more at home.
Yeah.
Than living in Bluffton.
Yeah, I agree. This is it's a magical place. What you guys are also doing is helping other people even unlock even more of that healthiness and happiness and being stress free.
Yeah, and I think that then it's like building organizations and communities that are more regulated and healthier, and just are caring more about the people, that are there. And I think that doesn't sacrifice your bottom line. It actually, I think it improves it if you know how to work smart, and you particularly with all the tools that are at our disposal now. It's about kind of really being creative and thinking.
And I didn't ask you, what would a client, what would they experience first time coming to you?
Sure. First time, usually I've kind of gotten a feel for why they're coming in and what people come to counseling for a reason.
Yeah.
Right? People have preconceived notions about what therapy is or what working on yourself means. And it's usually from from somewhere. And so I don't know what people's perceptions are of what they're going to find, but, or what they're looking for, but they're going to find a place where they can, begin to air out the truth and really figure out how they got here. Like, how did I get here? Like, where am I? Like, kind of get oriented around the truth. And then it's hard because we're so conditioned around adapting to other people's expectations and what the needs are from our family to what's really true. So just creating a safe place for people to find what's true and then come up with a plan that works for them.
Right.
And I do that for organizations and individuals and a lot of people who are just in really complicated situations where you think nobody's gonna understand this. I don't even know where to start. And so, you name it, I've heard it. And there's a quote, that I think is amazing when you really understand it. And it's truth is stranger than fiction, right? We've all heard that.
Right. Yeah.
But truth is stranger than fiction because fiction has to make sense, but truth doesn't. And so when you really think about what that means,
right.
You start to go, okay, like I don't have to worry about does this make sense or not. I just have to figure out how I can like be vulnerable and tell the truth. And that's where real courage is for us is the courage to like face the truth.
Right.
At all means and to come up with a plan. So that's what I do is help people face the truth, come up with a plan, and then, and then connect them to Kaylin. And a lot of people need a good doctor they can trust. It's a natural approach.
Right.
It's not just, focused on pharmaceuticals. So
it's amazing.
People survived for a long time without all these medications that we have now. So not only it's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the nutrition plan, do you get a lot of pushback? I mean, there's someone saying, man, I gotta eat pizza at least once a week.
It's hard to tell people what to eat, but I don't really take that approach. It's more about what are you deficient in? Let's get your body functioning properly. Let's get it absorbing the right nutrition, and then you're going to crave the right foods. Mm-hmm. And with the supplementation, it makes it a lot easier because the food supply is just so terrible.
That's why I'm starting to build my own garden.
Yes.
So I'm going to clear the area. I'm going to build some raised garden beds.
Build some radishes in there.
That's radishes
I'm a fan of radishes beets. It clears your gallbladder and your liver.
Well, for me, in a different way, like I've responded to the whole food supplements. So like, ideally you want all whole foods, but if you don't have those, then second to that would be whole food supplements that are an easy way to get those nutrients in an efficient way, like that are different than isolates vitamins that are definitely helpful, but that whole food, I think, and whole food supplements has definitely been a huge.
And just for, some people, because some people might not know, but like what would the definition of whole foods be?
Well, there's like a full spectrum, right? So like a plant is there's a full spectrum of nutrients that have like a, what you call like an entourage effect of all of it working together. If you isolate something out, then it works, but your body's used to taking in a full spectrum of nutrients, and so ideally you'd want that to be in your food, right? Digesting it a certain way. And granted, I'm literally taking this is just what I've learned from being around Caitlin, like, but it's made so much sense to me. And then so second to that, like if you can't get the whole foods, having whole food supplements is it's supplementing with a full spectrum, so basically you're getting a radish that's like there's like 20 radishes in one vitamin, like
right.
And there's very few companies that can do it, but there are more now, but it's huge, and that's where I've seen your practice kind of take off.
Yeah, we're just not eating enough of the right whole foods, and we're not grocery shopping correctly. It's not available. And it's not like I'm going to put you on 20 supplements either. This is not about that. It's about finding what's deficient and then starting to supplement accordingly. And we learned all of the isolate work with the hemp processing that we had. So that kind of triggered us into thinking, oh, like this is the direction we really need to go, because we extracted.
Yes. Yeah, so basically, we had this hemp processing business,
right.
And we learned about
isolates and all that.
How you pull out the oil out of a plant. So the process is basically the same for when you're creating tinctures and And then you, as you process it down, right, you get the full spectrum oil or whatever it is, and then you can distill it,
Right. Yeah.
and then you isolate it. And so that same process is happening with anything. We're getting vitamins, like they start out right in a plant, they're pulled out, distilled, isolated. It's kind of this thing that's been going on, and we kind of learned about it. I learned about it, and then saw the power of weight, of really how important it is to supplement. And there's some good companies that are doing things the right way.
Cool.
That she's introduced me to.
So like basically just from just thinking for myself here, and I could be completely wrong here, like on vitamin A, right? And you're just getting that whatever it came from instead of eating the whole, was it a carrot or something like the word vitamin A comes from.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And one carrot's probably not going to do it. So
Right.
that's where the supplement comes into, if you really have something going on with
Right.
an organ or a tissue or whatever's happening.
I think you're starting to see it with like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
your insurance will pay for vitamin D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's interesting because I do have a vitamin D deficiency, and like to actually, for some people to actually get the blood work to get to test vitamin D, some insurance companies
Right.
deny it.
And that's where they come to me. I can order it.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're absolutely right with the vitamin D. They're starting to notice that like vitamin D controls a lot
Yes.
of what goes on in your
It's the
body.
number one defense that you
Yeah.
need to have. And a lot of people are deficient from genetics
Yeah.
is a component. But usually the livers are so toxic that it can't absorb it.
Yeah.
So liver. We just have such toxic livers from the air we breathe, from the water we drink, from the food, from psychosocial, all of it.
Right. Yeah. And stress.
Stress in general.
And the liver actually controls the liver does a crazy amount of things inside your body that people probably don't realize what the liver does.
Yeah, I think that in the next 10 to 15 years, you're going to see so much more liver issues going on.
Yeah, like
We're just filled. It's our filter, and we just live in toxic environments.
Yeah, and your liver actually releases glucose into your system to wake you up in the morning. Throughout the day, it actually releases glucagon through your system.
Yes.
So yeah, the liver does a lot of things. It's crazy.
Well, yeah,
Take
it's like
care
our
of
whole
it.
body is so connected.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's the same thing with like these plants. There's so many different nutrients, right? It's like, it's not just one thing. Like, oh, you're gonna do this. It's like how your body digests it. And but you're able to take better care of yourself. And then you have and like for us, like having kids, and you're just in survival mode. You have kids and like
There's a whole nother mix in.
You start gaining weight.
Talk about stress.
You're not moving as much. Stress.
Yeah.
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 So you still go through hard times that are, I think, where you're not exactly where you want to be, but it's a process to at least be able to tackle.
Oh yeah. As a father of 3, and you're a father of 3, it doesn't get easier when they get older too. Because
Yeah.
my middle daughter was 16. She drove me absolutely nuts. Crazy.
Yeah.
But it's fun. When they're little, but yeah, having kids, you do all kinds of shortcuts. We were guilty of it. The quick shot to McDonald's, or, you got a picky eater and all he eats is dino nuggets. Or the best part was like, I'll make chicken. I have my own beer batter chicken recipe, and he'll eat that hand over fist. But if I bake a chicken in the oven, won't touch it.
Right.
Because they're marketed to. Kids absorb so much marketing
Yeah.
that and it's hard to fight these.
And that's where Catalin is what I put all my kids on. It's the number one whole food supplement that all kids people should be on. It came out back in the 1940s.
Wow.
By Dr. Roy Lee. He formulated Catalin. It's the best whole food supplement. It's the most affordable.
Yeah, he was
that you can
basically
even
this
get.
doctor that came over and took a lot of Chinese medicine and came.
My kids eat it all the time.
Realizing that industrial farming was going to deplete our soil and deplete the nutrients from our vegetables and stuff like that. And so he created this vitamin way back when that was a whole from real food that is still being used by these natural practitioners. I mean, I've gone to these conferences and these medical doctors are like transitioning their practices into natural practices. It's like, and this is all happening. And you're like, where's anybody hearing about this? You're starting to hear about it. But it's like, and everything starts out on the West Coast, but it kind of starts to trickle over here in terms of where we're headed as a culture. But I think in this aspect, it's a good thing. Like we're getting to be more natural. Like what's going to separate you from AI? Like it doesn't matter what you know anymore. It matters who you become. And it's the difference between knowing information and having wisdom. Wisdom comes from experience and being present and feeling, right? To feel your life. Like the only way out's through. It's not just reading books so that you avoid pain. It's learning what does it feel like to be in pain, to be awake. Sensitivity is strength. And particularly for men too. Like men kind of, being sensitive is not it's not a feminine trait. It's just a human trait. So, men being able to feel and experience the full range of emotions and then share that with somebody that you learn how to regulate your own emotions, but then we're also learning how to co-regulate in relationships, right? Just, how do you even have a relationship? It's just being able to be with somebody that you trust and that you can connect with and share life with, that somebody's there to witness your life and you're there to witness their life. That's what a relationship is. And so that means two people that are observing and not just lost in what they're trying to accomplish, but the journey is much more fun than just the games.
Yeah. Wow. So where can people find you?
So you can go to AlphaCareHealth.com, and the location is above from Chubb's by the St. Simon's Post Office, or you can call at 678-524-4829, and my schedule is on there. You can book an appointment there, or you can call in if you have any questions.
Now, are you still doing mobile, or are you can just be strictly brick and mortar?
Here and there, a little mobile. I get a lot of the people that come on the weekends here from Atlanta or from, all sorts of different places, and they're in need of a chiropractor, and I'm here for them. So,
well, thank you so much for coming on here. We really appreciate it. I learned a lot.
Yeah, this is great.
Thank you.
I definitely learned. I made some notes actually.
Yeah,
I think it's the first time I've done that.
Cool.
But this is something that I know my wife and I have been talking about, being more healthy and not just physically but emotionally. Yeah. We've talked about eating right, me cooking. I should be able to handle that.
Well, it's a lot easier when you're just trying to experience it and learn. It's a lot easier than when you're just when you think you're trying to perform this a certain way. Like it's just it does not about how you look, right? We're obsessed with what we look like or how much we weigh, like all these extrinsic numbers or extrinsic things. It's more about like crafting a healthier life where you feel better. Yeah. And starting there, and usually it follows that you get healthier. I mean, I'm not where I want to be in terms of my health. But we just had kids and we're getting there. And it's more about like, are we healthy as a whole?
Right.
And sometimes, so it's a process.
Well, yeah, it is. This is great.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Having us.